Welcome to the 13th session of Within the Shadow of the Galilean, Jesus in Jerusalem, Part 1. During this session, we will look at Jesus in Jerusalem at the temple in what is often called Jesus' cleansing of the temple. Jesus at the temple is the linchpin for understanding Jesus' life and death. The temple was 100% religious and 100% political and 100% economic and 100% judicial and 100% law enforcement for the Jewish people. And it was 100% controlled by collaborators of the Roman Empire. It was destroyed by Rome around the year 70, and just a portion of it is left today, called the Western Wall or the Wailing Wall. We will begin by taking a quick look at this episode in the Gospels of Mark and Matthew and Luke. And at the end of the episode, we will discover protagonists who are going to look for a way to kill Jesus. You'll notice on the screen the episode of Jesus at the temple set in 3 columns. The first to the far left, the Gospel of Mark, in the middle, Matthew, and then the Gospel of Luke. Jesus comes to the temple on Monday, and he goes in and he begins to drive out in Mark and Matthew those who are buying and selling in the temple, and then again in Matthew and Mark overturning the table of the money changers. Luke doesn't have anything about those buying or the overturning of tables, and then only in Mark do you find that Jesus would not allow anybody to carry anything in the temple, stopping any activity. Then he teaches publicly, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer," in Mark only for all nations, but you have made it a den of thieves. And then the chief priests in all 3 Gospels, in the Gospel of Mark, then including the scribes, but in Matthew and Luke it talks about the leaders of the people, look for ways to kill Jesus, for they are afraid of his influence upon the people. There were 4 wealthy Jewish families that controlled the office of the high priest of the Jerusalem temple during the time when Rome controlled Israel. There is a book called the Talmud that was written after Rome destroyed Jerusalem and laid waste to Israel, that is a lament about these 4 families. It goes like this: "Woe is me because of the house of Bethras. Woe to me because of their staves. Woe to me because of the house of Hanan. Woe to me because of their whisperings. Woe to me because of the house of Cathros. Woe to me because of their pens. Woe is me because of the house of Phoebe. Woe to me because of their fists. For they are high priests, and their sons are treasurers. Their sons-in-laws are temple overseers, and their servants beat the people with clubs." These 4 families intermarried and competed with one another, oftentimes hiring gangs to forcibly enforce their will with staves or with their fists, It is not unusual for them to whisper against each other or plot against each other. It is not unusual for them to enter into agreements with the Roman governor, writing agreements using their pens in order to pay more and more money to be the high priest of the Jerusalem temple. We will shortly in our story hear about two members from two of those families. Caiaphas, who's high priest as Jesus comes to Jerusalem, and Caiaphas's father-in-law, Ananias, both of them playing crucial roles in the death of Jesus. Well, these are probably the four most powerful and wealthy families in Israel at the time of Jesus. Their power and wealth isn't anything compared to the Roman governor of Israel, who at the time of Jesus happens to be Pontius Pilate. Herod held the title of prefect, which was given to him by the Roman emperor, and he governed the country of Israel, or as the Romans named it, the province of Palestine, through military power and an organization of secret police that gathered intelligence for him. He ruled from the coastal city of Caesarea and came to Jerusalem to maintain control during the major Jewish festivals. He was the head of the judicial system of the Roman province of Palestine and could overrule anything. He controlled the economic system of the province of Palestine by minting coins and collecting tribute and taxes that were owed to the Roman Empire. He controlled the temple by controlling the high priest, and literally he held the sacred garments of the high priest in a Roman fortress next to the Jerusalem temple. And he was always open to receiving a bribe from the highest bidder, the highest bid from the high priestly families that would put someone else in as the high priest. The vast majority of power and authority in Israel, or the Palestine province of the Roman Empire, was held by Pontius Pilate at the time of Jesus, the governor. There were four families that competed to collaborate with the Roman governor for over 100 years to gain the power and authority of the high priest that dominated the Jewish people. Any opposition to this power and authority was met with force and violence. So when Jesus comes into the Temple of Jerusalem, he is facing the full force of the high priestly families and the Roman governor as he begins to drive out sellers and buyers, as he tries to stop people from moving through the temple, as it says in Mark, as he publicly states that God's house shall be a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of thieves. We don't know if the stories as they appear in the Gospels are historically accurate, but we do know that Jesus confronted the power and authority of Rome and the high priestly families when he went into the temple. Why would he do such a thing? Well, it's the kind of thing a prophet would do. Throughout the Hebrew tradition, prophets are always confronting those who have power and authority. And what a prophet does is 100% religious and 100% political and 100% economic and 100% judicial on God's behalf. And this is what Jesus is doing at the temple in Jerusalem. This is what gets those in power moving to kill him. And this is what gets him killed. But this is only Monday of Holy Week. In our next session, we'll see how the powers collide with Jesus' teaching at the temple.